Don't you ever let go, no. It looks so bright now, yeah. I'm looking towards you, and now the battle is won. You hold on to something I need and want.
Good morning, or whatever it is, wherever you are. Okay, so at the same time. Probably had to do a lot more images there. Right, okay, I zoomed in. Loaded a bunch of new tiles. And this level, it is a couple tiles. Well, I forget. I think I only went into 27. Yeah, so I'm getting Zoom 28. Oh, but that's what I needed. I needed a tile data cache as well. Now, I presume that there's some, well, there might be some browser caching there, but actually, how does this look? Everything but images. -1, -1. Okay, well those are... There's -1, -1 again. Yeah, so I think the browser cache is doing that. It might still be nice to cache it internally to avoid that. But yeah, all those deeper levels, we're gonna be looking at the same data sets and just kind of sub-slicing them. So is that maybe a bigger issue than the images? We could probably determine that. Okay. When we load... I mean, it's kind of for the place tiles as well. So for create tile, and this is going to be different for the two of them. What was the timing method? I mean, and profiling might be too much. This is general. There's a thing. Where you can just do timing. Starts a timer, how long an operation takes. To time end. Time log. Logs the current value. That's fine. Alright, so I'm going to have to be able to put together some kind of... I guess just two string chords. Console.time. Well... Is it string of... JSON.stringify is the browser one. And this one does not have the extra arguments. So I want to know... Okay, then you've got our loading done. And then draw tile probably needs to be its own thing. It's not necessarily what we want to time. I want to time... get data tile. And really, until we get we can get a text. Now there's some processing there. I'm maybe not as concerned about that. Maybe I should be. That's going to be the end of load images. And then the start of load images. With a bunch of overhead for actually printing the stuff out. Okay. Yeah, maybe it would be useful. Data tile. So data processing is not insignificant. Feels like the data tiles are actually like backlogged on the system. Image loading. Now this is from start to finish, not necessarily how long we spent working on that. This kind of feels like we got all this stuff set up at the beginning. Although it had to be done with one stage before it could finish the next. So that's for each tile. These are probably overlapped a little bit, particularly because they're all going to share some of the same images. Right now, it looks like image loading is the bigger block. But some of that is real load time. I could put in just like a rectangle drawing mode while we wait for images to load. And I would have to break down all of these different stages to see where that was going, but it's as much as it's not good, it's not anywhere near as big as these. So for this, I mean, this is per each tile, but can we do data chords for this? What? I mean, this is a local variable. It should still exist. Okay. Oh no, it's... How is data coords changing? Oh, because they were the same. One of the other ones was ending the timer early. I have to put something on extra on here to see what tile we're loading. Well, okay, so consolidation of data tiles is only going to help us when we're in close like this. Images are always going to be an issue. I can consolidate my processing of that. But I can't get something on screen any faster without actually having them. Well, okay, so here's one thing. Well, no, right now I'm just reloading, so this is what we're showing. In the time view, there are things in history we might not need to actually draw. So right now, we get to the end of this, we attempt to preload images, and we wait until we do that to attempt to draw anything. We sure already have object bounds. So if image object bounds, actually, you could use bounds to come up with, or the 4 bounds, although that would mean using all of them, to come up with a more accurate rectangle. This is only used there. Oh, I'm going to pre-calculate some of this too. In fact, this could be pre-calculated in the same way this could be, but then you'd only have it for the images. No, that was using natural width. Which is probably pretty similar to object bounds, actually. If we just did a difference of those. All right, if we allowed this to draw without an image, then we would also need a something just like this. So this is going to be lower corner. This is going to be 0 and 2. Which I guess, if I actually did this as the divided version, I have to figure out which way the math goes here. That is offset from center. Right, so that's a negative bound or a negative number. Negative and plus. So we would want this minus that. Okay, you're already negative. Or rather, the OI was the negative version of the top bound. So are you going to be plus that? And I haven't set a color for this yet. It would be fill rect. So what we actually want to do for testing purposes. Some of that feels right and some of it feels not right. Because surely some of the trees are bigger than that. Surely the bell towers are bigger than that. Surely the roads are bigger than that. I'm guessing these little things are the roads. It's hard to tell if it is offset at all from the natural. Well, Gradical can tell us. Yes, it is. So it's like a little tiny rectangle up there. Offset X. Oh, you know what? This is probably 2 and 1. That might make more sense. Okay, so some different colors would help a little bit. But that seems slightly more reasonable. What were we doing for the pixel layer? That's a slightly different format, though. Oh, we already had this as a little bit of an earlier thing. That was just cell size, though. We've got context, we've got fill style. Okay, so maybe not the most useful thing. But it's something you could draw before the images are in. That might just end up looking terrible. All right, so the point we've got to here, we can draw, and we're going to want to redraw. Well, I don't know if we should be doing done again. So it's actually able for all that it takes us a second to download the images. You don't really get a whole lot of benefit from that intermediate version. And there's 100 milliseconds here that's just because we have a timer there. Right. So really, we shouldn't be setting a timer here on the first pass for the cases where it's already loaded. Also, we're now drawing tiles twice, where we don't need to. So I would need to know if there were any unloaded images. So that could actually even take the place of the first check loaded. Although I'm having to duplicate a little bit of stuff here. And this does allow us, or this, I'm thinking of the animated version of this. Where it's going to try and load up everything that has appeared anywhere in history. Even though it might not be needed for the current image. So we've got a big data file, and which I need to do some instrumentation on. So what we want right now is that if we don't need to redraw, now I do have the benefit of local images here. So maybe there are other situations where having that stand-in drawing would be useful. So for the first pass, I want to keep track of how many things we had to load. Well, no, this is only checking for existence, not if it's complete. So that is different. But we also want an immediate answer. For our first draw, do we need to do this other draw? None of them draw in box mode? I guess we've got everything cached at this point? that is still kind of amazing to me. However, that does mean we have to wait to draw anything. So this is taking 1 second. During which nothing happens? Well, this only happens under certain conditions. But that implies that this thing actually takes takes a second. Oh, wait, did I get these backwards? Oh, no, I've got a done management problem. Because if this is true, it's going to have already called this draw. I'm just saying if it's not. Are we even hitting this? Yeah, it seems like it. Maybe we don't have object bounds at that time? The weird thing was that we would see them flash up if we did it before this. I kind of don't understand what's going on here. Oh, I'm checking for the image to exist. Not for is it complete. Okay, that gets something. I mean, it's kind of an ugly something. Maybe it looks better just to have things kind of fill in. To the empty map. Uh-oh. We broke something. Is it just like too many requests per unit time or something? Maybe it's too many console statements? Okay, I've only got the one there. I want to break down some of these steps sometime, but it's not the most urgent right now. So it's like we started out fine. I don't know if this is the tile engine. Not requesting things, or if it's something with me. Just needs to be a log. Okay. Okay, move end. Well, here's a bunch of data tiles for 28. Am I not firing my duns properly? Of course, is this a new problem or... So the old behavior was we only did that. So it feels like it's that new behavior. Was it drawing at the wrong time? As we know in general that we can just call draw. And that will update things. Oh, we don't call done if we only trigger the internal thing? That's saying if not, pre-draw, but call it done. But if everything is okay on the first pass, it will call this. It will not call that. So we would have to say, or maybe, should you just call done? Well, it's going to check loaded. It's going to call it's done. We've got this done. So we would have to say, it feels like there's some additional flicker. Oh, because I left an extra done in here. That might just be the resolution changes, but I don't remember seeing that before. Okay, maybe I just wasn't noticing the resolution that much. I don't know, the boxes are actually kind of distracting. I guess the real question is, I've got all the images locally. And I've got decent internet. Whoop. So it's kind of hard to say what that's going to look like normally. Decent bandwidth is actually not too bad. I guess I was more concerned about when this has to load up all the images from all of history. That's actually going to require us to make more of a what is currently drawn, what is actually being drawn judgments. Well, there is a place where I actually determine key place. So if we... I might want the timing code for a little bit more. This allows us to draw... Well, the main thing here is allowing it to draw the boxes, which I'm not too sure about for this one. So rather than waiting until we get to the actual draw for this, map log sprite, create tile. Right now, we load images from the entire map log. What if we tried to go through, because this will rebuild key place. Which actually kind of means we need to go through and check that every time we redo this, which is the cost there. And you don't have a done, though. So this would have to say done. I mean, that should have drawn something. Oh, layer is not defined. Tile at. So layer is going to be this. You don't really need chords. Does time, Oh, no, I still missed a layer. Oh, layer.load images. There's a leaflet pause. It's not a chord. So either I have to pass that, or I have to attach the coordinates to the tile. And update tiles doesn't have it. Oh no, tile.chords. Okay. I guess because that wasn't underscored. Maybe that gets attached later? Chords is undefined. Oh, maybe it gets attached after we do done. This is undefined. You were a function. That's why we were doing that. Okay, so we were still console logging tile somewhere. All right, so how does that feel? Okay, we get some colored boxes. So like every colored box in there is something we didn't have to preload. Does it need to be a colored box? Is another question. That does seem to be a bit of stuff. Because that might be... Yeah, the colored boxes is a question of really how long have we been waiting for it to load? So if it loads quickly, you don't want that flashing. If it takes a long time to load, it at least gives you something to look at. It wouldn't be as bad if I had better object colors. You see, the problem is we're in a little bit of this. That is a number. It's not as distracting. And if we force this, what? Okay, maybe multiplying then that doesn't work. Why are you able to build up color? I guess we maybe because there's multiple objects there and they're like all overriding each other, and the way it's doing that is reinforcing the background color. If we just did 0.5, it'd be fine. That's going to be really spammy if we just do it every time. It's a number. Oh, it only processes this on fade tall objects. So I need to know the base alpha of it. And I don't want to go changing the drawing parameters unnecessarily. But for this, if we have mixed mode, we do have to switch it between images and boxes. Well, if they're all faded, they're not going to care about fade tall objects. If they're all, this is actually going to be making it different. If we did mix, then we have to have this. Might be a little bit of a performance issue there. So that's a nice muddy mess. Let's just up a little bit more, but they're not as jarring. And we do have some delay from all the console logs. And this kind of, well, this kind of goes back to colorizing things, or getting preferred colors for things. Well, I was hoping to do it only for the larger objects. Because there's probably a place for a like tile per pixel zoomed out layer. All right, so, well, we've improved the timed. Yeah, I'm actually not sure the color boxes are good there. The timed version should load a little bit faster. It doesn't have to load all of history. I should, okay, well, this level, actually, we're not even to full image detail yet. That's full image detail. And really, I'm loading the full images here to be able to downscale things. So image LODs are a tricky issue because you technically end up loading more stuff if you go all the way down. It's only if you don't load everything that you save a whole lot. So I'm still uncertain what to do about boxes, because on initial load, they're kind of distracting. I should have got most of the images there. So apparently the time view had something else going on. Yeah, there's definitely more work happening there. So maybe what we're doing is not doing that initial render after all. Oh, I'm all the way down to the next thing. Key placement sprite, create tile. Where that tile at? Did I mess something up here? Oh no, is derived from key placement sprite. I want the one where we define that. So it's a delay, but assuming, I mean, it all comes down to how fast the images load. Assuming we get them relatively quick, it actually kind of looks worse with all the boxes. Okay, so we know load images takes like a second on my local little server here. You know, data processing takes a while. I think it takes even longer in the timed version. We know getting our data tiles takes a while. And I don't know how much of that is actual network and how much of that is just stacking callbacks. But in theory, at a certain level, they're all sharing the same data set. Well, not all of them, but at 28, we only got up to 27. So that's a lot fewer like actual network operations. That we could theoretically be doing. Which tile URL? Key placement pixel. Right, because you only work at one zoom level. That's fine. Fetch might also be a browser compatibility issue because it's kind of a newer thing. But that might be its own issue. So I would need some sort of intermediary data fetcher. So that would say I want to get this tile URL, and it should function fine at a URL level. That would actually... I might be able to build the data cords into that. Like you give it a like data cache layer. I don't know if I could actually use any of the tile leaflet tile stuff for that, because they really expect to be fetching a DOM element and displaying it and managing that visible window. I mean, I could probably just have like a dummy div with the data attached to it. And then my real tiles could go ask that layer for the tile at such and such. I'd probably get hairy in terms of managing whether it was loaded or not. But that does sort of handle like cache expiration or ejection. There's probably a little bit of stuff we're reusing here. Data min, data max, chord Z, data zoom. So we would need the chords in. But I think you don't really need it much below that level. So there's a filter layer where I reject the stuff that's out of frame. But in between that, we have to parse the placement logs and the timed history logs differently. So I don't think I can super generalize that. All right, are we in a good spot here? Yep. Only load needed in anim. Only load current frame for maplog. Don't draw boxes in kplace. Chord.x is just what it is. Let's see. So, I used return, and that's that. And to figure out how to handle that, it might be nice to do text, except I have some out of band state. Well, that could move up here, really, if needed to. That was Maplog Sprite version. There's the images. Key placement pixel kind of doesn't have this concern because we only have one zoom layer for it, zoom level for it. Kind of want it out of the way. Let's see, so this is going to more of a data load of strategies. So what do we want to call this? This is going to be like a limited zoom tile data cache. So it's not really going to be a leaflet object per se, but the paradigm here is that we have objects, which means it's going to be a function constructor. Now we do kind of have the paradigm of object properties for managing options and things. Initialize. So we've got class.extend. Options a special property. Okay, so this is a general class feature. Add a init. Oh. Well, that's sort of interesting. And maybe it would need to be invented for the load stuff? All right, so we've got that. We've got... This is going to have some of the data zoom options. So this is not necessarily... We're going to initialize the cache. This could actually take over data tile URL. And maybe even the tile URL stuff that I merged into those classes? So this is going to be something like load tile. You may have something like that. And then this was kind of in the middle of a block of stuff. Oops. Actually. Key placement pixel. Yeah. Had a lot of that stuff. So maybe you would still use this, it would just only have the one layer defined? And the other ones, key placement sprite, super sample is for drawing. Actually, regular paste works here. Oh, you're not that, necessarily. Or it's not relevant. Yeah, so this is going to vary per thing. We have more that are this way. Oh, that's the default, and I defined that. Okay. Right, and those had the get data tile URL. Okay, you had get tile URL. Which actually, okay, so that one was still reusing the base get tile URL, which required all this other Oh, but you didn't have anything about zoom. Which means I don't need subdomains or zoom offset because it's just a template. Oh. But this has to have support for that parameter because some things use it. Okay. Yeah, this might have to get left to the specialized thing. We'll have to see. So I've now selected get tile, create tile, tile size. Actually, die. Okay, I'm still using that for this stuff, but that is for the sub selection, which we're not able to manage at this level currently. All right, so we get chords. Data min, data max, calculator on cell size, chords X, data zoom. We've got all that. We've got all that. Okay, I don't use you. It's just where I had some of this stuff calculated. Because this is just stuff I had to pre-calculate before jumping in. We shouldn't need any of this. Now that we can do that. You are going to be for a particular URL. That's fine. You're going to need a different cache for every data set. Okay, those are different data sets. Key placement sprite. Eva Couture, thank you for the follow. Okay, so that gets the config. So really, grid layers by themselves don't take a URL, right? Yes. So I could have them take a tile data cache instead, since it's a required parameter. So key placement pixel. Right, so we were just setting our parameters so that it would never attempt to fetch anything outside of 24. I really don't need the cache for that one. Except in as much as that and could you reuse the 24 layer? Should be the same data there currently. So that kind of fills in our data source parameter. Right, and you have your max native zoom that will prevent it from fetching that. Tile data cache. Key placements, key placements. And you have your own options. You don't really have min zoom and max zoom. You just have... Oh, it doesn't have data zoom. Right, for key placements we only did one zoom level. So data min zoom, data max zoom. The leaflet naming conventions seem to be super consistent on that. So this actually, right there, but key placement, right, that's why that was defaulted to 2424. So I could really leave that, but this is exactly what we want for this. Tile data cache. Do I want to this dot time? I can probably make that a parameter. I mean, heck, I could make this a extra parameters object. The timed layers will pass time. I guess I'll have to turn this on in order to evaluate how it's working. So we would replace you. Actually, is this per layer? This is not per layer. It does make it specific to the type of cache, though. or per age. I mean, I guess you could, in fact, pass the time in at that point. Because, like, key placements do have a definite time. Yeah, that's probably the code I copied. All right, so key placement pixel. That's map log. So you then wouldn't need any of this stuff. So create tile, get tile URL. Load tile. Oh no, it's get tile URL. So then this thing would actually have to take the data. To pass it down, it's kind of becoming an inappropriate name. You have no extra data. Okay, so this is originally a promise API. Which actually is really easy to do here. That does change our indent, though. All right, so that should be one of the simpler ones. To find out we broke something. Right. It's not cache. Let's call it layer at that point. Right. We did underscore. No vibrator per variable time. Oh, you do have a time. Okay, so that one's working. So we've got key placement sprite. You would get a cache, not this stuff directly. Okay, so we should be able to lose. Data zoom, cell size I might still need. Min size. Load tile chords. This should also have a time, because it's the time of the age. Is that, well, is that how I'm passing this? Right, because this is a Leaflet API thing, so time has to be set. Oh, I haven't actually done caching behavior, but we want to make sure this is also working. Data zoom is not defined. Load tile. This is key placement sprite. Oh, what did I get myself into? Oh no, cell size was using data zoom. Well, but we're using that for cell width and cell height, which is the difference between our coordinate and z. So I might want to extract this function somewhere. For now, the easy thing is to put this back. Except we don't have a data max zoom anymore. So we probably want to have our tile data cache. Data zoom depends on chords.z. Probably easier to pass chords. We do use this twice. All right, this is the thing we're modifying. Key placement sprite. It's not cache.data zoom. Did I update my call to this? Oh, The time log extended that one, so it kind of depends on it. No. Now, oh. No, we can have this thing exist there. It's just you will never ask, because of your max native zoom, for something bigger. Text is undefined, 1210. Tile data cache. Okay, so load tile. Oh, if there was no data and we abort, we actually want to just abort. What kind of promises are you using? No, this is actually fetch. That would have to be like a browser native promise, which I always have a terrible time figuring out the documentation for that. Okay, MDN. Well, I guess in Node it's harder to find. There's a promised object rejected with a given reason. And the reason okay, preferably it's an error, I guess. I'm not sure how well everything will handle this. Yeah, it raises a bunch of errors. Uncaught exception. That's an awful lot of not founds in here. That makes me concerned. Data tile. There is no 28. No, it's data tile. 27, yeah. But it's saying that's not found? Maybe we're not putting appropriate time in here? Wait, you only have 20 key place. Oh, I was... Actually, yeah, the entire key place data set. Oh, I actually can't resplit that window into the same file unless I do this. This set only has one zoom level. It's the map logs that have multiple levels. All right, now, both of these layers are fetching the same thing. So this is where it gets complicated. So you initialize, you need to have some place to keep. I guess it would have to be a promise, huh? And I still don't have a good thing to do if there actually is no tile found. We actually handled this pretty nicely before. I mean, I could succeed with an empty string. That'd cause it to succeed with a empty canvas, I think. Well, we're already kind of creating the tile and not finishing it. This is mainly a silent condition. Well, I have to actually see a missing thing for that. So we're going to have probably fine to do this by URL. So we're going to have which also means we're going to have to capture the value of this. If we do it. And at some point I may have to consider if we need to expire stuff from here, which is something that the leaflet tile system does do. They're generally more aware of zoom levels and view areas. Oh, actually that would be the argument for actually using the leaflet tiles to sort of game it. They would do all that management for us. It's not cached, did I? Oh, yeah, because I was following all on the leaflet conventions for stuff. Even though we're not necessarily subclassing as much, to the extent where we're worried about hitting native properties, or leaflet properties. Okay. So you can see when the data comes in, we get our first layer, and then everything else is all the extra processing and image loading. So this is going to have a bigger impact where we have zoom levels that are sub-slicing stuff. So I wanted to turn this back off because there's still a little leaflet bug that I need to like rebuild leaflet for. Really? Okay. Okay, so that's still key placements. Map log. And this one can go up to 27. You need to be key placement cache. You need to be maplog cache. I guess I had the data zoom built into you before. Yeah. It got its constructor from the other one. It was reusing cell size, so we still have this problem. This stuff has to move out here. This was load tile. I guess you were getting the same, because you were basing the other one, so your time would actually be the time of the stuff to fetch. And then the individual time updates becoming in as arguments. Oh, actually... the X and the Y... just need to be here. Layer.option. Options. Okay, and that broke things badly enough to reset our position. So I really need to be looking at. And we got all the objects. Oh, no, I removed... okay, so it was doing that and then filtering them out. So that's 0, -1, -1, -1, 1, -1. Oh. And apparently there is no object 0. So I don't know how, I guess I should really set up to measure that. But it's going to mean less browser loops to get all these close-in ones. And technically, well, we won't need to refetch this stuff, but that's allocations. No, memory. Does mean we're going to keep keeping around a lot of stuff. So I might want to keep some metadata around in terms of like zoom level or view area or just time. Yeah, unfortunately this is not very informative. Doesn't tell me anything about what it is. No stack available. GC roots, objects, canvas elements. Fun environment. Bunch of time dimension stuff. Layers. Okay, that's like all time dimension. And we are going to have a big array there that I might need to rewrite time dimension for. Anim overlay options. Map log layer. Yeah, it's like, maybe this is the array of times. It is a big array. Oh, available times. Is that 8 megabytes? Jeez. And it's not terribly surprising given that you need every second in there. But it does make that seem a little bit more significant. Would that go down in a smaller arc? However, we would have to hold our snapshot for that. Oh, and that might be a... Well, it went down for sure. A time where you would want to flush the cache? Oh, cache property. Yeah. So we need some kind of cache management. So it'd be nice to have some persistence, like if you went there and you went back. Where did everything go? Oh, because that reset our time. So what would we want? We would probably... I mean, time is an easy one. Last time requested. I could try to measure the size in terms of strict number of URLs and try to figure out what's a reasonable number for that. We have something that does basically work. I need to turn off all the console spam sometime. All right, so what can we say about this? We can say we measure that. Object keys should be the same as that, as values. Okay, so far we've got 4. Changing zoom. Oh, we didn't hit a level. So they're really big files. Are we really hitting no new tile data here? Oop. I am surprised. As I wouldn't expect to have the more detailed levels, at least, of some of these. I mean, higher levels, sure. Oh, this is all key placement. Yeah, there's only level 24 of there. We have to get into this. It's level 26. All right, so it's looking like I mean, 100 might be a reasonable cutoff, and then you would want like last access to be able to pick what you'd throw out. Because it's great that you can cache some of this stuff. But at some point, we're just going to fill up memory with all the tiles. So I might be able to attach that to the promise. It might be a little bit better to kind of keep a record of our own stuff. Okay, so if there's something there, we return that. Else, actually, I might be able to make that my storage. And last access was, what is it? Sure. And for this, we want to I want to do that from both paths after we've updated the timestamp. Of course, I guess the flip side is now we're kind of doing more work to manage the cache. Let's see. So a count would tell us how much we want to remove. Unfortunately, this is if we want to go with the most expired. It's kind of a sorting operation, which isn't great. If I instead kept the cache as an array, I'd have to search it every time, but you wouldn't have to sort it. It's like pick your poison. Well, I could have it duplicate indexed and hope you don't mess up. I guess with the array, you would have to do a array shuffle. And you wouldn't actually need to care about timestamps per se. It could just be the base record. So this, I go back to and I guess with the access time, you could just pick to do things that were just too old because. So we could say push. We would have an array, a nice handy array. But it's not list URL. That would just be list push and index URL. Oh, I do need a record then because I have to be able to find the thing in the list. And that's really the only thing we need. Because the index doesn't necessarily have to point to the record. It's probably good if it does. Just so we can talk about the same thing. And now we need to do all that annoying stuff. So we need to, how does that work? We need, does index of take a function? That's an element though, right? Well, no, because I can look up the element from the cache, from the index. So that gives you the index. So okay, so that gives you an index. Slice 1. Well, it gives you the start. One, two. Gives you an array of that. Actually, I need, is it splice? That gives you that array. I need the thing that removes an element. Or is there a thing that removes an element? Or do I have to put together two arrays? That is begin to end. Shallow copy of a portion of array. Actually, do want to modify it. Changes the contents by removing or replacing. Oh, so maybe the return value and the array are different things. Okay, so I put 2, 1, not 1, 2. So splice would accomplish removing it and returning an array. And just to be clear, the arguments are delete count. The elements to add to the array? Oh, so you can do a replacement. But it's going to be at that spot. So we need... let's see. We've already got the element from the cache. But we're going to need to do two things with it anyway. This dot list dot splice at index of record 1, and this dot list dot push Okay, so that keeps it current, and that actually makes expire very easy. Well, no, because we also have to take out the index. Record equals this dot list dot is it unshift or is it shift? That seemed like a weird response. Maybe return new length, I don't know. And then we have to all right, so this is not going to change the length. This may have changed the length. This only matters if we're doing timestamp-based expiration. Right now we're not. I guess we don't actually need this as a function as much. It's good to have it separated. It's going to do the length anyway at the moment. All right, so this is a good level. Actually, this will view more stuff. To rack up lots of stuff. Okay, and we are holding at 100. So that's not enough. And if you just scrolled around like this, it would necessarily prevent you from reloading things as you went back. But it was mainly for the tiles that, if you go down or down, that are like reusing the same data over and over again. Maybe, well, I mean, some of this jank is from just console printing. We also have the delay on image loading and sometimes loading new data sets. Yeah, there's a new object there. Yeah, it's the things that actually affect scroll speed that I'm kind of concerned about. Some of that could be so yeah, we're seeing some of the big dips there. Forget skippable. This looks like garbage collection. Huh. Which means I might need to watch I might need to figure out what garbage I'm collecting. Or watch. Okay. So here's a silly question. Now, I guess these lines are kind of a thing as well. Because those are really big pieces of data. And I'm not sure just keeping data forever is going to be the answer here. Although I guess there's a sense in which we don't keep those responses around as much. Before we had the cache, they just kind of got consumed. Oh, did I take my counter out? I think I took my counter out. Oh, nope. There's a 5. Oh, because we're not in the super detailed one. Yeah, there's some definite hitchy there. Okay, well, that's going outside the rift zone. Oof. Okay, well, that was actually a code at least. Hey, Quirky. Create tile, create tile. Okay, so some of these are actually my code. Right, I was just looking at the play behavior before. So promise callback is mainly going to happen. Twitch Prime costs you nothing. Twitch Prime is the freebie that you get with Amazon Prime, essentially. I know at one time the Prime subscriptions did not auto-renew. You at least had to go in there and click it. I don't know if that behavior has been changed. But yeah, a non-Prime subscription costs money, of which I will get about half. Twitch Prime is a little bonus they threw into Amazon Prime to encourage people to sign up for that, where you can essentially give me a small amount of money from Amazon, which is, in sub-level coming from your Amazon Prime subscription. Okay. Yes, this is the actual create tile. Yeah, so we do a whole lot of work when we set one of these up. Oh, well, there's more create tiles. Why is that? One 422, 1428. Cache load tile, map per line. It might be, and there's some garbage collects in the middle of that. Yeah, so I might need to look into some other methods of, because like we're splitting this line into parts, we're getting the parts. We're actually creating an array of lines. So I might need to look into methods of doing this that don't create garbage. Yeah, Jason did the map logs. And I've got like a bunch of debugging in right now. So we've had the final state for a while. And what I've been playing with is going back, and it's kind of a slow pace right now. Actually doing the time-based stuff, which unsurprisingly has a lot of data and a lot of drawing. So I've been looking at how do I make this performant enough to publish. Now, maybe it's good enough for people to deal with some jank. It's gotten better. There's a really big loading delay when you do tiles, but it can scrub once it's got the data loaded. Content post. Oh, yes, I believe I do know what you're talking about there. Uh-oh, what'd I do? Maybe you got into some garbage collection there. Yeah. I actually didn't realize where it came from at first, but eventually I saw the quote elsewhere. All right, so JavaScript. Reducing garbage collector activity. Well, that's part of it. Concatenate strings, enter a scope that contains function declarations. Triggers an exception, evaluate a function expression. Coerces an object. Array prototype. Arguments. Split a string or match with a regular expression. Put inner functions that have no or few dependencies into a higher, longer-lived scope. Now it takes some analysis. I think that what's showing is that it's actually this parsing that's the particular problem here. Strings to represent data, structured data, or dynamic addressing. Using split or regular expressions. Okay, so yeah, keys. Instead of reconcatenating. Objects as keys directly. Oh, right. You can only use keys. That'd be objects. Exceptions. Can't avoid JSON stringify. Allocating multiple objects. High frequency events. Well, that is going to be a lot of iterations, but I think there were times when I tried 4 instead of map and it was actually slower. Using arguments, network messages, build a parse that does not allocate a string prototype caret. Complex format. It's not a very complex format. Thousands of times per second, geez. Tracing memory allocation. Okay, so maybe I didn't look at that one. Well, I mean, we know there's garbage collection going on, and we kind of know where it's coming from. Cache as much as possible. All right, we might have to look at more specific parsing stuff. JSON parse, memory management, JavaScript parse and load. split a comma separated string. Stir split. Okay, no mention of garbage collection cost there. Yeah, there's... No, I did do parsing. Fast, memory efficient. Probably going to be more general. Yeah, this is all much higher level. Let's see, we have a number for a timestamp. We have numbers for coordinates. We have not necessarily numbers for object IDs. The other thing that's bothering me is this. Why is min size based on cell size? Which is based on data zoom. Did I put myself into a weird place here? Chords.x, so that is adjusting things. Adjusting the coordinates. Cell width and cell height. Oh, that might be because that happens to relate to our maximum amount. Wait, where is padding down then? Oh, because we're just pre-calculating those boundaries. Tile size.x. and I guess pre-printing them. So that has to adjust the boundaries. Right, because these are in frame coordinates. $128 divided by cell size. So data zoom is going to clamp me at some point. If it's the same cell size, so if it's both 24, why does that follow specifically the data size? Because like min size is very much a drawing related thing. Okay, yeah, with the overage. Chords.z minus data zoom. Oh, at this level, yes. But for this has a wider range, which this is in key placement. Why does that make sense here? Cell size 1. It's getting scrolled off by the other junk. What are we printing out here? That's an error. Chords time. And image is done. And we've got data tile. And we've got our tile data cache, which we're kind of okay for now. Oh, I actually turned off expiration to test stuff. And we're not in that mode. Cell size 1, cell size 1. $250. Okay, yeah. Cell width. Why is cell size relevant to min size? Because I would expect it to be changing, and it feels like it is changing. Well, that's not the drawing layer. But who are you? Key placement pixel. Key placement pixel. How are you defining min size? Oh, we're doing this filtered. Min size, options.min size. This dot options.min size. Oh, did we just... okay, so you are using that to filter out these objects. Why are you using key placement sprite? It only has one detail level. So this may have been an accidental case of this was just the right number. And really, this should be okay, so for key placement sprite, we're only drawing at 24. So this would just be 24, and we don't need data zoom. So I don't think that the min's drawing size really depends on our range of drawables. There's probably a better, we could do like, well, no, because I mean, really it's 24. You could say min, or max zoom. Oh, but the cell size. Cell size is used for this, which does depend on that. All right. You could probably figure this out. I do need to take a short break. But this seems like it might be something I could puzzle out before we end up here. I'll be right back. Nope. Now, there was something about these deploying at inappropriate times. What was it? Was it? No, I guess it's only on the ground. Oh.
Many viewers. May as well just start the game. So, as you probably know, Oxygen Not Included has created.
See, he would have done that against our Strider. Which also makes him a 6-6 and then a 7-7.
Yeah, but what? Is he gonna swing into us?
No.
Well, he might have something that just gives it first strike, or
He would have to have a bolt. 2 cards left in hand. Go ahead. Bring it on. Bring it on! Oh, he's smart.
Cast it.
There you go. Gotta soak it up. Mmm. Yummy. Uh-oh. Now I'm all sticky. Oh, thank you. Thanks, Mom.
All right. Welcome back. All right, so data zoom should be telling me the size of our data. The cell size is relevant in so much as we're going to have a segment that we're going to filter out of this. And that seems like something I could probably extract too. But min size feels like we should be really looking at something, some property of the z-coordinate itself. So what we're saying is that as this cell size coordinates divided by cell size 1. So it feels like cell size is like how finely are we chopping the piece of data we're looking at? Or it's like how much do we have to divide down our tile coordinates to get to our data tile coordinates? Oh, right, because 24 is the point. Yeah, because this is like data zoom. This is key placement sprite, which is really only going to have 24 as a data layer. So this is, yeah, kind of accidentally the right thing. So cell size is going to increase as we zoom up. Which is going to shrink this. So I think that I was thinking this is kind of like 1.5 tiles times the width, and then that's the minimum size. Right, times a full width thing when you're zoomed out. And then as this starts to shrink as we get down, then you're looking at smaller and smaller objects. Can we express that in a more logical way? Because this is 128, aka 2 to the 7th, divided by 2 to the z minus data zoom. Data zoom in this particular case is going to be 24. And Z for many cases, or for the large tile case, is going to be 24 minus 24 is 0, which is divided by 1, which is just 2 to the 7th. If we zoom, as we zoom down, it's going to go 1, 2, 4, which I think basically means we're going to be subtracting from this. But relative to a certain point, could we describe this just in terms of Z? Because this is Z minus 24. If we consider this as just zoom math, and I don't know about exactly what that means right now. This probably is some sort of relation. 24 plus 7. Actually, that's 31 is the layer where that becomes there. So it's just 31 minus Z. So 31 minus 31 won't be 128. No, that would just be 2 to the seventh. But this was making this a smaller number as we went down. Oh yeah, actually, because 31 minus 24 is exactly what this was. We were dividing by that. Seems like there ought to be a way to calculate that directly. Maybe. I guess that turns in like 7 minus. But surely that can resolve into something. Well, no, because 7 minus all of that would be an inversion of things. Because there's all of that. That's just Well, okay, so that says it's 0. So is it negative 31 z minus 31? Not be negative. Abs of that? Or is that just 31 minus z? So at 31 minus 24, we have 7. That was 1, which is 128. 31 minus 31, we have 0, which is, I think 2 to the 0 is still 1. So that leaves this at no, that would be 31 minus 31 as that would say 1.5 pixels at that point. We were all the way down there. So that's cell size. U that's the base zoom at 31. All right, so this is the create tile of the key placement sprite. So I think it's doing all its filtering as it grabs the data for that. And things do seem to be falling out in a reasonable order. So I've still got some leftovers where we're using data zoom. I might want to do something with the cache to say, okay, how big is the box? But I think this would have actually been wrong. Now, is this actually using this? No, this is not even using this field. I think it is using that field. Oh, we went to the other one. Min size is happening here. Options.min size. Where are you? Key placement sprite. Yeah, we fixed that. This dot options dot min size. Did I never set that? Oh, because the layer for those layers, we have pre-calculated that. Maybe I thought I had put it into options. I guess we'd still need this when we get into zooming into certain layers. But you don't have chords. We got tile.chords. Oh, no, we're out of time. Well, that stuff isn't there. 27 is our last actual data layer, and I think we may still be doing some filtering of needles and stuff beyond that. Okay. That takes care of min size, data zoom, our cell size to adjust those coordinates. We use cell size for our cell width. That tile within this section I could have a function on the cache that did all the math for me. But it would have to return two things. But tile size is the thing we've really only got here. So it's awkward. Oh, I never committed this. Cache expiration. Reworking. Min size to not depend on all right. Unfortunately, that is about as far as we get there. Just because I want to eat lunch sometime. So one of the janky bottlenecks is load time garbage collection. We need a little bit of progress on this. We're kind of cheating on drawing ready. This is going to be a tough one, though. We can just throw this in here. All right, I probably need to start thinking about how I can publish something, because we're getting this to where it's somewhat useful. Even though there's lots of, I mean, conceivably I could still do stuff with the data format, but it hasn't changed in a little bit. So the rest is probably optimization. It's not going to affect things too much. I do really need to get a better, like, staging environment for this. It's all kind of manual copying. Occasionally, like, renaming a file to test. And then trying not to mess any of that up as we're going through stuff. So I kind of need to get like a staging environment that references some of the same data tiles. Because if you mess it up, then you've got stuff in the CDN that's not good. So anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. thanks to Quirky for refreshing the Amazon Prime sub. And everybody else who hosted me. What do we got going on here? This is about when I tend to be on. Kind of depends on how caught up I am and what's going on. Well, looks like the Jinta is working on some exception logging and tracking stuff. Didn't see a whole lot of other things super related. If everyone's someplace cool to hang out, that's someplace cool to hang out. Thanks for hanging out with me. Goodbye, and until next time.